there. I always have a doubt. Do you believe in time travel? I don't. But you can argue that you can do time traveling in the nearby future. But what if I told you that there was a train that time traveled on July 14th, 1911? Yeah, sounds unbelievable, right? On July 14th, 1911, the rail company Zanetti offered well-off Italians a free trail ride on their new train. The passengers were enjoying the views from the train window. One of the sights they were looking forward to was a new tunnel that went through a mountain. It was one of the longest tunnels ever built at that time. And that's where the mystery begins. The train entered the half-mile long tunnel in Lombardy Mountain and never came out. It just disappeared. After this incident, the railway workers, the police and everyone searched every square foot of it but found no trace of the train. The tunnel itself was just a long tube. There was nowhere to go but to the other side. There was no sign of the train crash in the tunnel. However, there were two passengers who jumped off the train before the train vanished. Later, when they came to consciousness, they were able to tell the story of their eerie trip. As the train was approaching the tunnel, black smoke came out of nowhere, and so did a white, dense fog. The train slowed down as it was nearing the exit, but the fog began to envelop it. Two men panicked and jumped out of the train. One of the survivors told it on an Italian newspaper. I heard an unclear humming sound. The other passengers became crazy hearing it. It was so horrifying, I jumped out of the train. And my eye caught another passenger jumping out of the train at the same time. And that is the last thing I remember. For many nights together, because of what they had experienced. Word spread about the tunnel, and officials thought that it was best to close the tunnel. And this notorious tunnel was bombed in World War II by closing it forever. No one can give a sound explanation for the disappearance of the train. But many of them witnessed the train going into the tunnel, but no one saw it coming out of the tunnel. It's a big mystery that is not solved till date. But that's not the last time we heard about the mysterious train. There are some records of the medieval monks in Modena who said that they saw a cylindrical iron tube and on top of it black smoke was coming out. Behind the iron tube there were two iron boxes. There were people in that boxes. They were clean shaven and dressed in black. They said that it might be the work of any evil forces because in the past at that time nothing like train was invented. So that is the reason they thought it was the work of an evil force. But how can it be possible? And a small fun fact, the fastest means of transport at that time was horse riding. And all the records of this monk were kept in the records of Casta Solia. I don't know if I pronounced that name right. Stored by Sagino family. And one of the survivors' name was Sagino. But the mystery did not end here. In 1840s at Mexico, the passengers of the Zanetti train were found by a psychiatrist. This psychiatrist left notes about his life incidents. One thing in that note said that a group of 104 Italians were all admitted in a hysterical state. All of them said that they were traveling through a Zanetti train from Italy. But think about it. How can it be possible? Travel from Italy to Mexico in a train at that time. So he thought all of them had gone cuckoo. But he checked whether they were telling the truth or not. He was amazed to see that a person had a cigarette box with the date 1907. He mentioned that he had never seen like this in his life before, ever before. And a fun fact, that cigarette box to this date is kept in the Mexican Museum. Many years later, the train appeared again in Europe, in the country of Ukraine. In the village of Zavelichi, a signalman, Pyotr Ustimenko, reported that he saw an old-fashioned pre-war model train with two cars behind it moving soundlessly without any tracks. He got frightened and rubbed his eyes, but what he saw was real. The train was empty, without any drivers or passengers, with closed curtains and open doors. It was heading to a mountain, but he had never seen that train ever before. Still, he was sure that it was an old model. The descriptions he gave was the same as how the Zanetti train was. How can a person in a remote village in USSR would know anything about an Italian train lost at the beginning of the 20th century? It does sound very much like a ghost film. As crazy as all this sounds, could there be a scientific explanation of the ghost train? Another interesting note about this sighting is that at the end of the 19th century, there was an Italian cemetery built on Gasfort Mountain near Sevastopol. About 2,000 Italian soldiers who died during the Crimean War were buried there. Later, a railroad from Balaklava was constructed over the former cemetery, but then was destroyed after the revolution of 1917 because it was no longer used. Was the ghost train riding on ghost tracks to meet its Italian brethren? Oh well, I guess we will never know. And again, this wasn't the last account of the train appearing. Some believe all the railroads in the world form a sort of a connected web that has its own magnetic field. The trains serve as electric conductors between the Earth's natural magnetic field and the artificial one. The conflict between the two forces creates fractures in time with endless holes. This explanation is based on Einstein's theory of relativity. These fractures are called coronal holes. Sometime before the Zanetti train left the station, there had been an earthquake where the tracks were. It's believed the crust fracture which appeared under Lombardy Mountain created a time anomaly at the entrance to the tunnel. The train became the link necessary to dig through time and space, and it fell from its time vector where it belonged and could move to other times. So, in layman's terms, it was traveling through time. But it's just an urban legend. Still, it got so popular that some paranormal enthusiasts devoted years to find the existence of the Zanetti train. As time went on, more names and details were added to the story. However, if you try to look up the rail company Zanetti, Casta Solia, the Sagino family, or a signalman named Fyodor Ustimenko, you'll only find links to different versions of this legend. What do you think of the story? Do you think it's true? Do you want to go find out about it? You want to research on it? Tell me in the comments below. And see you next time. Bye.